On my sweet 16, my 3 brothers came home with a girl named Sylvie. "They'll regret it," James muttered once we were in the car. The doors closed behind us like a final sentence. Sorry if I overstepped. I just can't wrap my head around it. What kind of brothers choose a stranger over their own sister? I stared out the window, watching the rain smear across the glass. They didn't always, I whispered. They used to treat me well. I was the surprise baby, the late-in-life miracle. My parents were already buried neck-deep in the Rener empire by the time I came along, well into their 40s. Raising me became my brother's job. I remember once getting in trouble at school. Nothing major, just some prank. The principal called for my parents, but Asher showed up instead, dressed in a crooked tie, pretending to be our dad. He always protected me and Jace. Reckless, loud, loyal in the way only little boys can be. One night I told him I wanted to see shooting stars. At midnight, he snuck me out through the garage, knowing full well Mom would skin him alive if she found out. We lay on the damp grass in the park, counting stars like we had all the time in the world. Back then, they were my whole universe. Then came the day just before my sweet 16. Mom and Dad left on what should have been a routine business trip, a quick meeting with a cartel leader in the south. Nothing unusual. But their plane crashed. Both of them gone instantly. Asher was the one who brought their bodies back. He was barely 30, yet overnight he became the backbone of the Rener empire, Dad's most trusted man. Eerie, Dad's closest ally, died with them that day. He supposedly left behind a daughter, Sylvie. So my brothers brought her home, insisting we treat her as family. What they didn't know, or didn't care to find out, was that Sylvie wasn't Erie's daughter. She was his sickly niece. Her real name was Anna. I discovered it by accident during a hospital visit, her records. I realized then that she and her mother had worked overtime to erase Anna and reinvent her as Sylvie, the tragic orphan with a sob story my brothers could rally around. I told Asher. Begged him to look deeper. He did. Then he came home and accused me of lying. "Don't do this, Kaya," he said coldly. "Don't turn into the kind of girl who makes up stories out of jealousy. I've seen Sylvie's file. She is Erie's daughter. After what she's been through, we owe her. If her father hadn't died saving ours, she'd still have a family." But I knew better. Sylvie had wormed her way into our lives one calculated sob at a time. She knew how to pit me against my brothers, how to play innocent. When I caught her snooping in Dad's study, I told her to leave. By the time my brothers heard about it, my words had twisted into venom. Since they believed I had lied once, it was easy for them to think I'd lie again. Sylvie rewrote me into the spoiled brat, the jealous drama queen. And my brothers believed her. Even when she jumped into the freezing pool in December with no one around but me, it was easy for them to decide I had pushed her. "Are you all right?" James asked now, starting the car. "Fine," I said, turning to the window. My fingers trembled as I wiped away my tears. Just a few more days and I'd be gone. If they couldn't honor my truth, then what was the point of being honest at all? Let them keep their pretty lies. I had a new life to build, one that didn't need them in it. The next morning, I returned to the Rener lab. I was halfway through finalizing a new compound when I heard voices echoing down the corridor. Asher had brought Sylvie. "She can't be here," I snapped, stepping out from behind the testing partition. "We're in the middle of trials." "She just wanted to look around," Asher said casually. I left for the rooftop to smoke, a bad habit I rarely indulged. When I returned, the compound was gone. I found it shoved deep in the trash, ruined. My hands shook. I didn't need cameras to know who had done it. I found Sylvie sipping tea in the break room. "Did you throw out the new compound?" I asked quietly. Her eyes widened, then shimmered with tears. "Please, Kaya. I didn't do anything." Right on cue, Asher stormed in. "What the hell are you doing?" "She dumped our formula. It's ruined." His jaw tightened. "Do you have proof? If not, don't treat her like a criminal." "Because I know," I hissed. Asher's voice softened only for her. "Did you do it?" She shook her head. That was enough for him. The elevator doors closed on me later, Asher's words still echoing, "You've been strange lately. You can't lash out at her like this." I met his gaze. "Brother, if she didn't do it, fine. But if she did, what exactly are you protecting, the sheep, or the wolf in sheep's clothing?" Tomorrow was departure day. I thought my last night at home would pass quietly until Noah called. "It's my birthday," he said softly. "Come home for dinner. Sylvie's not here." I went. For a moment, it almost felt like old times. Pasta, wine, cake. Laughter, light conversation. Until Asher said carefully, "About your guard, James. You need to know people like that sometimes get close for the wrong reasons. He has ties to the Orman group." My blood ran cold. "James is a good man," I said evenly. "If you cared to know him, you'd see that." Asher's eyes hardened. Jay slammed his chair back. "She's not family anymore. Spoiled and blind." I stood. "At least I'm not pretending." The dinner dissolved into chaos. I left without looking back. Departure day came. James arrived early. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded. My life with the Orman group began in Mexico. Their compound looked more like a modern manor than a cartel fortress. Mr. Orman himself greeted me, polished, charming, dangerous. "If there's anyone you want to reach out to, do it today," he said. "After tonight, you'll be off the grid." I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over each name: Asher, Jace, Noah. I chose Asher. The line rang. Then Sylvie answered. "He's busy. You can tell me whatever you need to say." In the background I heard laughter: Asher, Jace, Noah. Carefree. Happy. Whole. Without me. "Nothing," I said flatly. "Just checking in." I hung up, pulled out the SIM card, and crushed it under my heel. There wouldn't be a Rener tomorrow. Only a girl with a new name and a new life. The name they gave me was Maya Cole. It looked ordinary on the page, but it felt like a knife sliding between two ribs and prying them apart. Rener was printed into every molecule of me, in the way I lifted my chin, in the way I read a room, in the way I stood a little to the left of a door so I could see who was coming through it. Still, I signed the intake form as Maya Cole. I watched the ink dry. My hands did not shake. Not anymore. The Orman compound sat on the edge of a desert valley that turned gold at dusk and iron gray at night. High walls, discreet cameras, a garden of dry loving trees that cast neat patches of shade over clean gravel. It was not the ugly kind of fortress. It was tastefully ruthless, an estate that said we are civilized men who happen to survive better than civilized men usually do. Mr. Orman received me in a library that smelled faintly of cedar and old paper. He was in his 60s, well-cut suit, eyes like cool water. Beside him stood James, no longer in the casual jacket I had grown used to seeing, but in dark tactical fabric that fit him like a second promise. He inclined his head just enough to say we are on the same side without making a show of it. "Thank you for accepting our protection," Mr. Orman said. The last word hung for a breath, almost a question. "I accepted your conditions," I said. "That is not the same as trust." He smiled. "Then let us build both protection and trust, at the speed of proof. Your lab is ready. You will find everything you requested, plus a few prudent additions. For the first week, no external contact. After that, if you need a single call for personal closure, we will discuss it. James is your primary. If you need something and he cannot get it, it probably does not exist." I did not look at James when Mr. Orman said that. I kept my eyes on the older man and the line of his mouth that never quite hid the part of him that loved winning. "Thank you," I said. He nodded toward the door. "James, brief her on the campus rules and the training roster. The rest can wait until she sleeps." James led me through cool corridors that broke open into airy courtyards. The compound did not sprawl. It unfolded with intent, every turn designed to be remembered in 3 tries or less. He showed me the clinic, the small chapel, the gym, the range, and a room with rows of servers behind glass. "We have in-house tech," he said. "Nothing leaves unless it is meant to leave, and nothing arrives without being checked twice." "You sound proud," I said. "I am proud when systems work. I am careful when people are inside them." We reached the lab, and my breath caught even though I had rehearsed myself not to give these people the satisfaction. It was pristine. Modular benches, 2 hoods, chilled storage that hummed at a perfect low pitch, instruments set at thoughtful angles for a body like mine to move efficiently. A small office with a door that closed softly and a wall safe whose combination I would set with my own hands. A locked drawer with 3 new notebooks, unlined. A pencil jar. A plant in a white pot that would survive my neglect. "Who picked the plant?" I asked. "A woman named Luz who runs facilities," James said. "She thinks labs look hungry without something green." I touched a leaf. It was tough, matte, alive. "I will try not to kill it," I said. "You will not," he said. "Luz says it is indestructible. She said the same about you." A muscle in my throat tightened. "You should not say things like that," I told him. "It makes people try to prove her wrong." He did not answer. He walked me through the lab inventory while I nodded and took it in. The Orman group had not skimped. They did not ask me to synthesize something I would refuse. They wanted adhesives and coatings for logistics, marker compounds for supply chain security, formulations that could not be reverse engineered in a week by bored competitors. It was gray, and I could live in gray for a time. Gray was how you got strong enough to confront black. When he finished, he guided me to a guest suite that smelled faintly of laundry soap and clean air. The bed was wide. There was a window but no balcony. Safe and neutral. A small stack of folded clothes, all new, in my size. Dinner at 1900, he said. Training begins at 6. Show up in comfortable shoes. And sleep, Kaya. I looked at him. Maya, he corrected himself quietly. No, I said. Thank you for saying who I am out loud at least once. The first night, I did not sleep. My body lay quiet while my mind walked old hallways. I saw my brothers, the way boys grow into men with their hands still ready to catch a sister who is running too fast. I saw Sylvie, pale and breakable as a moth until she wanted something. I saw the pool in winter, the black water, the way my breath had crystallized in the air when I dragged her out and pressed my palms to her sternum. I saw her eyes flutter open onto a story she had already written. She would say she had been pushed. She would say it as if it had happened to her in a dream I should feel guilty for. At 5:30 I gave up on sleep and laced my shoes. Dawn edged the mountains. The gym lights glowed steady and white. James was already there. He did not ask about my night. He handed me a bottle of water and a set of wraps. First boxing, he said. Range after breakfast. You do not have to like any of it. You only have to do it correctly. I wrapped my hands, and he corrected my tension twice, not touching my skin, only tapping the air near my wrist until the muscle learned the angle. He taught me a stance that made me feel anchored. He did not let me rush. Left jab, right cross, pivot, breathe. By the third round I was sweating hard and the place behind my sternum that usually burned had gone quiet. By the fifth, I almost liked him. You hit like an argument, he said. Clean. Measured. Relentless. Show me how you hit, I said. He smiled. Not today. On the range he watched me flinch the first time I raised a pistol. He did not mock me. He broke the motion down into steps and let me repeat them until the steel felt less like a live snake and more like a tool. He was patient, which was not the same as gentle. When I jerked the trigger, he made me stop. When I tried to skip ahead, he made me reset. You are building a habit you will use exactly once when you need it, he said. The cost of a bad habit is not practice time. It is blood. After lunch, I claimed the lab. Work settles me. It puts all the hurt into a beaker so I can watch it change color and believe in transformation. By late afternoon I had already rearranged 3 drawers and set up a small matrix of trials to test a new tagging compound that would bind irreversibly to a surface but remain invisible under every light except a narrow band. It was small, almost trivial in the grand scheme, but small things are how you rebuild trust in your own hands. The second evening Mr. Orman invited me to the library again. He poured tea for himself and offered water to me. He had the air of a man who could drink whiskey without blinking and chose not to because clarity was the sharper weapon. I knew your father, he said when we sat. Not well, but enough to know he was not a man who confused noise for power. He liked efficient solutions. He taught us to hold silence the way other families learn to hold money, I said. He regarded me with something almost like respect. I do not expect you to tell me your whole plan, he said. But I should know its shape if we are to help you. What will satisfy you, Miss Rener? An apology. A confession. Their repentance. What is the price of peace? There is no peace, I said. Not yet. There is only proof. When I have proof, I will decide what to do with it. Proof of what? That the girl in my house is not who she says she is. That she is not a harmless stray who needs a bowl of milk. That my parents did not fall out of the sky because the odds finally turned. He did not pretend shock. Good men rarely die by accident where money and fear travel together, he said. What do you need from me? Access. 2 hospital archives. 1 private investigator with no loyalty to anyone in the city where my parents took off last. And your hacker. He lifted a brow. My hacker. I looked at the wall of books, then back at him. You have a server room that hums like a hive of satisfied bees and a man who cares about systems as if they were family. You have a hacker. I do not need his name. I need his hands on 3 tasks within the next week. He considered that for a moment. James trusts your aims, he said finally. That is rare. I will trust his instincts and your result. You will have your access. But one thing first. There is a piece you did not put on your list because you do not know it exists. He set a tablet on the table and tapped the screen. A still image filled it. Sylvie. Her face softer, younger, but the same calculating eyes she hid under a sheen of fragility. She sat across from a man at an outdoor cafe. The man was one of Orman's. I knew it by the way he watched the street without turning his head. This was 5 months ago, Mr. Orman said. She requested a meeting with me. I did not oblige her. I sent a junior proxy. She wanted a service. To isolate a sister. To remove you from your house in a way that would make you look unstable. She had a budget and an assurance that your brothers would not ask too many questions if you were the problem and not the victim. The air in the room thinned. I kept my fingers flat on my knee. What was your price? I asked. I do not sell that kind of work, he said evenly. Not anymore. My man took her request and brought me this record. I filed it under dangerous girl with a weak spine and a sharp mind. I did not act on it because it did not concern me. Now it does. I made myself breathe. If I had seen this a month ago, I would have stormed my own house and set it on fire, I said. And now? Now I will make sure when I strike, there is nothing left to explain. Thank you for the footage. He slid the tablet toward me. Keep it. Consider it an advance on our trust account. I left the library with the device in my hand and the ground under my feet feeling both more solid and more exposed. James was waiting in the courtyard with 2 mugs of coffee that steamed in the cooling air. He handed me one and said nothing. We stood there while the sky turned from gold to blue to a deep kind of violet that never existed in the city. She tried to hire your boss, I said finally. He nodded once. I know. You did not tell me. I did not know if you were ready to hear it on your first day inside a new life. I chose to keep you steady rather than make you burn. You did not choose wrong, I said. For a week, we worked and trained. Training bruised my ribs and steadied my hands. Work sharpened the part of me that could still taste joy. The hacker, a quiet man with eyes like the inside of a storm, set up a secure research tunnel for me. The private investigator began to send me dull reports that, when lined up side by side, made a shape I recognized. Hospital admissions under the name Anna Barlow. A temporary guardianship signed by a mother who dropped off the map 6 months later. A sealed petition to change a name 2 states away. A transfer of a small trust in the name of Erie that should not have been able to accept a niece as beneficiary. I built the timeline the way I built a synthesis path. Every date, every signature, every odd coincidence was a reaction intermediate that either carried us forward or broke the chain. I circled the days that mattered. The day my parents died sat in the middle of the page like a hole cut out of a photograph. On the 8th day, Mr. Orman called James and me to the operations room. It looked like a small war could be designed there without raising anyone's voice. On the screen was a news site. My face. A file photo cropped so tight the left edge of Asher's shoulder remained in the frame like a ghost hand. Rener era suspected in theft of proprietary materials. Last seen leaving the country. Family cooperating with authorities. Please contact Rener security hotline with credible tips. The headline painted me as a spoiled girl fleeing with a suitcase of secrets. The article quoted no one by name, but the phrases sounded like my brother's careful speech trimmed with a publicist's shears. There is no upside for us in public confrontation. There is only controlled narrative. I set my jaw until it ached. Noah would never have fed this to the press, I said. Asher would if he thought it would pull me back. Jace would if he wanted to punish me for refusing to play nice. It will make your return more complicated, James said. Eyes on you. Ears waiting. But pressure breaks sloppy lies. Let them keep talking. Mr. Orman folded his hands. This is not a surprise to us, he said. What is new is the tempo. Someone wants you back on a leash fast, before you build a larger case. That means something is scheduled soon that would be safer for them if you were sitting in a quiet room at home regretting your disobedience. The private investigator pinged my secure inbox as if to confirm the thought. He had found an anomaly in the maintenance log for my parents' plane. A work order filed the night before their departure under a code my father used to prioritize safety checks. The problem was that the code was submitted from an IP address in our own house at 2 a.m. The user credentials belonged to a junior staffer who had been on vacation that week. The machine signature matched a laptop from the administrative pool. And the Wi-Fi access point used for the login was one that did not reach the study unless you stood next to the balcony doors. On the balcony, I whispered. Which balcony? James asked. My father's. Outside the study. I saw the scene as if I were walking through it. Night. The house asleep except for a light under a door. Someone standing on the balcony with a laptop open, stealing access from the closest point that would not wake the system logs inside the study itself. Someone who knew just enough to mimic a routine and not enough to hide the simplest trace. Someone who had learned the house by walking through it as if she owned it. I pulled up the footage again from the tablet. Sylvie in her soft sweater. The way she watched people watching her. The way she built a story she needed them to hear and then gave it to them neatly packaged in a heartbeat. We need the airport logs, I said. The cameras around the maintenance hangar, the bad angles no one checks until a lawyer demands them. We need the scheduling software access records. And we need to send a request for the black box service record under a code Mr. Orman can get that does not say Rener anywhere near it. You will have it, he said. I will move 3 men off money work to this. But understand what that means. Whoever did this will feel you coming. They will not wait by an open door next time. The next morning the training roster added one more line in a blunt font. Defensive driving. James tossed me a set of keys and pointed at a track cut into the back end of the property, a serious loop with cones and concrete barriers that would not forgive stupidity. This seems like overkill, I said. It is the right amount of kill, he said. Drive. For 2 hours he taught me how to turn a car into a decision I could make instead of a hope. He taught me how to brake hard without panic, how to feel the weight shift under my hands, how to reverse as if the road behind me were the road I had planned to take. When my hands shook, he made me breathe. When the tires screamed, he said good. Hear them now so you do not hear them for the first time when someone is trying to box you in. Halfway through the session, a message reached him on the secure radio clipped to his belt. His face went still for a second in a way I had learned meant he was rearranging pieces on a mental board. He turned it down and waved me in. We have a run to make, he said. It is not optional. One of our contacts is ready to hand over a block of airport footage. He will not hold it for us past sunset. Secondary route only. Low profile. You in? He did not need to ask. Always, I said. We left through a service gate in an unremarkable sedan. Desert sun. Heat a hand on the back of your neck. James drove the first leg, then handed the wheel to me and sat back watching mirrors. The city unrolled in slow lanes and faded paint. We parked 2 streets away from a small electronics shop whose front window displayed 3 cheap televisions playing 3 different channels. Our contact was a woman with hair pulled tight and a mouth that did not waste words. She handed me a drive the size of my thumbnail and shook her head no when I reached for my pocket. This is a favor to a man who once sent a doctor to my sister at midnight because he could, she said. You have 40 minutes before a very boring man in a very boring suit comes to ask for the same thing. The boring ones scare me. They come back with paperwork and the kind of polite you cannot fight. We left by the back alley and slipped into traffic with the ease of people who had rehearsed it. We were 3 turns from the freeway when a van pulled out too quickly from a side street and kissed our rear bumper. A love tap. I checked the mirror. Empty windshield, driver too low or too smart for my eye line. Go, James said. I went. We were boxed in 2 blocks later by a truck that merged as if we were invisible. A second van appeared in the left lane. The driver held a phone to his ear like a lifeline. He was bored enough to be dangerous. This is not random, I said. No, James said. Right 3. Now. I cut right hard, slid between a bus and a delivery bike, felt the tires pry a squeal out of the asphalt. I did not apologize to the bike courier when I saw his glare in the side mirror. The van followed. The truck did not. We had shed 1 weight. 2 more turns and we reached a stretch of road under construction. The cones made a crooked mouth. James pointed at the narrowest gap. I shook my head no, then did it anyway. The sedan took it like a dare. The van tried to follow and scraped a cone hard enough to spit it under its own wheels. It fishtailed. For a breath I thought it would roll, but the driver saved it. He was not as bored as he looked. Left, James said. I cut left and found myself in a back lot behind a strip of shuttered stores. The exit ahead was chained. I saw the glint of steel, the regular X of links, the padlock like an eye. James had already unbuckled. He was out of the car before we stopped moving, a bolt cutter in his hands as if he had conjured it from the glove compartment. The chain fell. He waved me through and jumped back in as I gunned it. We burst out onto a service road, free for exactly 6 seconds until a new car slid into view in a way that was not a coincidence. That one is real trouble, James said, low and calm. Do not panic. 10 seconds to the roundabout. You are going to take the second exit, then pretend to take the third, then take the first. Trust me. I trusted him. The roundabout approached, a circle like a heartbeat. I took the second exit, signaled as if I were the kind of citizen who believed in signals, drifted toward the third, then cut inside and took the first so tightly I felt the centrifugal pull in my teeth. The car behind us committed late and had to ride the circle again. We bought ourselves 10 breaths. We reached the freeway and disappeared into a river of dull cars driven by dull men going home to dull dinners. James kept his eyes on the mirrors until his shoulders slid down half an inch. He exhaled. Good, he said. You listened. I always listen when the person talking has skin in the game, I said. We switched drivers at a rest stop. I pretended to stretch. He pretended not to check the perimeter. We did not talk about the van or the truck or the moment when the chain fell, as if it had been waiting for us to come through. Back at the compound, I dropped the drive into the hands of the stormite hacker and told him I wanted 5 angles from the hangar at the hour between 2 and 3 in the morning on the night before my parents took off, plus all the timestamps from the workflow system and the signature values from the maintenance tool accounts. He said nothing, but I saw his mouth move around one word. Finally. We did not wait long. At midnight, the operations room lit up with footage. Black and white. A side door to the hangar. A figure entering with a rolling case that could have held anything. The figure wore a cap and moved with the careful speed of someone who knows cameras have a threshold above which the mind begins to notice. The figure stopped under a light that worked badly and tilted her head up to check something. I saw her mouth for 2 frames. Even in a wash of pixels, I knew the line of it. Sylvie, I said. The room held 3 men besides James and me. They did not speak. The second camera showed the figure inside the hangar walking past a row of grounded planes until she reached ours. She did not touch the plane. She touched a workstation and inserted something into a port. A small thing pitched for an easy crime. A script. A profile. A trigger. The third camera showed her leaving and adjusting her cap. She walked straight, no hurry, a woman who had never been asked to run. She looked like a volunteer at a bake sale. She looked like a sister you would hand your house keys to because you had decided to believe in goodness the way a child believes in summer. Timestamps matched the false work order in the maintenance system. The IP trace the investigator had found at our house told the other half. She had made the signal from the balcony to create the request that would unlock the hangar access, then driven to the airport to deliver the code that would push a late-night update through without setting off alarms designed for exterior threats. Not a bomb. Not a blade. A software flag that convinced the avionics to tell a benign lie during the first climb. A lie that would compound into failure under a particular set of atmospheric conditions. Rare. Tragic. Unfortunate. The hacker froze the frame at the moment she tilted her head. He zoomed. It wrecked the image, but it amplified my certainty. My throat burned. Send copies of this to a location I will specify, I said. Dead drops. A cloud mirror under a random account. A vault in a jurisdiction that does not answer fast to anyone. If I am lifted off the street tonight, I want this to keep walking to every place that might hold it. Consider it done, the hacker said. James stood so still I could hear the fabric of his shirt settle. He did not touch me. He did not try to make the moment small. Thank you for surviving long enough to see this, he said. I thought of Asher. Of the way he had looked at me in our kitchen as if I had become an insect that needed to be brushed off the sleeve of our family. I thought of Noah, his earnest belief that love was an argument you never abandoned. I thought of Jace, ready to explode in any direction that made the house feel loud enough to drown his guilt. I thought of this girl, this Anna who called herself Sylvie, who had come into our home with soft hands and a soft voice and the will to erase any stone that did not serve her path. The operations room door opened. Mr. Orman stepped in, a phone in his hand that looked too small in his elegant grip. He set it on the table and hit speaker. A voice filled the room, clipped and steady. Asher. He did not say my name. He did not say hello. He said this. I am requesting a meet. Tomorrow. Neutral ground. We have a problem that needs a clean solution. Bring Maya coal. Or bring nothing. James did not look at me. Mr. Orman did not move. The silence was a clean white plate waiting for the first cut to show what had been hiding inside the cake. You pick the name, I said to no one in particular. He wants to see if I will answer to it. He does not want to see you, Mr. Orman said softly. He wants to control the frame. Men do that when they feel the walls shift. Where? James asked. The voice on the phone continued, as if answering him from a world away. The old airfield north of the city. Noon. No weapons, no outside comms. If I see an extra car, I drive away. If I see a drone, I drive away. This is not a negotiation. It is a courtesy. The line clicked. The room exhaled as one organism finding air again. He thinks he is protecting her, I said. Or he thinks I am about to set fire to his house. Both can be true, James said. We stared at the frozen frame of Sylvie tilting her head in bad light. I knew what my father would have done. He would have brought a quiet truth into a loud room and set it down on the table like a clean knife. Then he would have waited to see who flinched. I looked at Mr. Ormond. "I want the meat," I said. "We will prepare it," he replied. James turned to me, and for the first time since we had arrived in Mexico his eyes looked unguarded. He was not afraid. He was not posturing. He was simply measuring the distance between two hearts that had learned to walk in armor and were now stepping into a field where you could not wear it and still move fast. "There is one more piece," he said. "I did not bring it to you because there was no proof and because the cost of being wrong is too high. But now the shape is visible. You should know the rest." "Say it," I said. He did not look away. "She is pregnant," he said. "And the child is not Noah's." I felt the world tilt by half a degree, a gentle slide that would kill you if it continued long enough. The desert wind pressed a palm against the window. Somewhere in the distance a dog barked once and stopped as if reminded to keep the peace. "Whose?" I asked. James answered, and his voice did not carry judgment, only the terrible clarity of a man who names the monster so that no one can pretend they did not see it. "Asher's," he said. I did not cry when James said the words. I did not break anything. I stood there with the bad light frozen on Sylvie's face and let the truth settle in my bones like winter. "She is pregnant," he said. "And the child is not Noah's. It is Asher's." For a long breath there was only the hum of the air vents and the faint click of the server room 2 halls away. Then I sat, because standing was a performance and I did not owe anyone a show. I thought of the old promises Asher used to make when we were kids, the kind you make with your hand over your heart even when you do not know what your heart will be asked to pay. I thought of the kind of man he had become under the weight of our parents, under the roar of the Rener name. I understood how a lie could reach for his guilt and call it self-love. "I'm still going to the meet," I said. "We will prepare for it," Mr. Orman said. "There is nothing to prepare," I said. "There is only the cost I am willing to pay." James did not argue. He waited with me while the hacker made 3 mirrors of the footage and sent them to 3 places that would wake up like guard dogs if I did not check in by nightfall tomorrow. We wrote a dead man's letter and locked it where even I could not touch it without 2 keys. One was mine. The other sat on a shelf inside Mr. Orman's safe in a plain envelope with my name written in block letters like a school label. Insurance is not drama. It is a ritual, like tying your shoes or washing a wound before it heals. We walked the airfield on a map. We marked wind, sun, camera sight lines, exits that would look clear until they were not. James laid out what he would carry and what he would not. I showed him where I would put the tablet in my bag and where I would put the small recorder that did not need consent to bear witness. Sleep did not come, but I lay in the dark and let memory walk through my chest like a person visiting rooms they once loved. I saw Asher sneaking me out to count shooting stars and Jace double daring me to climb the fence behind the pool and Noah standing at the door with a towel and a rule I would break anyway. I saw the girl who had never belonged in our house caring for the soft things she could control and cutting the hard things she could not. At dawn I went to the lab. I set a small strip of test stickers under the hood and watched a pale line darken where a new tag bound to a surface. It looked like nothing if you did not know what you were looking at. That was how truth worked too. It asked for patience and a trained eye. At 10, James knocked once and stepped inside the door. He wore a plain shirt. No insignia. The kind of clothes that made a man look like a man and not a side he was playing. He passed me a small piece of hard candy. "Sugar," he said. "Your blood will want it." I took it and let it melt on my tongue. Soft lemons. Summer in a room full of cold metal. We took the unremarkable sedan again. We left through the service gate again. The city rose out of the heat with the same tired grace as every other day on Earth. The old airfield sat north, a strip of cracked concrete and a cinder block building with a roof that had lost a fight with sun a long time ago. Noon made everything flat. Noon took depth out of faces and shadows out of lies. Asher arrived first. He did not come alone. Jace stepped out of the passenger side of a black SUV with a jaw set for a fight and hands that could not find stillness. Noah climbed out of the back. He looked exactly like the boy who used to make us tea when we were sick and read the instructions twice before trying something. It was his eyes that told the new story. They were tired in the way a soul gets tired, not a body. We parked at the agreed distance. James got out and stood beside the hood with his hands visible. I walked the rest of the way alone. Wind lifted grit across the concrete, a low hiss like a warning. Asher did not step forward. He let me walk all the way into the open. Only then did he move, shoulders squared as if the world were a weight he was willing to shoulder in front of an audience. "Kaya," he said. "Do not call me Maya," I answered. It is not a test I need to pass. Jace snorted. You look the same for someone who supposedly fled the country with our secrets. You sound the same for someone who supposedly grew up, I said. Noah swallowed. His voice cracked only once. We can fix this, he said. Come home and talk to us. Home is where truth can live, I said. Your house became a stage for a liar. The word snapped Jace like a twig. He pointed at James without taking his eyes off me. You brought outside muscle to an apology, he said. That tells me what this is. It tells you I do not walk into a lie without a witness, I said. Asher's face did not move. You asked for a meet, he said. You got it. Now come back. We will handle the rest in-house. No, I said. We are not a house. We are a story you manage. You do not get to edit the ending. I set the tablet on the hood of their SUV and tapped play. The hangar camera filled the screen in gray and white. A small figure in a cap. A rolling case. A workstation with a port waiting for a thing that would look harmless until it was not. The timestamp sat in the lower left corner like a clock that had finally decided to tell the truth. Jace tried to talk over it. I held up a palm and did not raise my voice. He stopped out of habit, not respect. The old training still had power. When the figure tilted her head, the air changed. Asher did not make a sound. He looked hard enough to cut glass. Noah made a broken sound in his throat and covered his mouth with his hand like you do when you are holding a thing inside that is too large to let out in public. The second clip played. A cafe. A soft sweater. A voice we could not hear and did not need to. The written transcription slid across the bottom in clean letters, a color of warnings. Isolate the sister. Make her look unstable. There is a budget. The third file was a log. A work order from a machine on our balcony at 2 a.m. A junior staffer's credentials used while he took a photo of his toes in the sand 4 states away. It was mundane proof, the kind that always cuts the deepest. It was not dramatic. It was practical. It was a list of a liar's chores. Asher's jaw flexed. He did not look at me. He did not look at his brothers. He kept his eyes on the tablet like a man staring at a last chance. Where is she? I asked. No one answered. The wind did. It pushed a curl of yellow grass across the concrete, the only soft thing for miles. I know you want to handle this in-house, I said to Asher. But the sky already handled it. The cost is not ours to decide anymore. The sound of a car rolled in from the road. We all turned. A white crossover pulled into the heat, clean and fast. The door opened before the engine died. Sylvie stepped out in a slate dress that made her look fragile and expensive. Her hair lay sleek against her skull. Her hands fluttered once, then folded over her stomach in a gesture so perfect it could have been printed on the box that holds the word mother. She saw the tablet. She saw me. She saw the lines of my brothers and the way their bodies made a wall she believed she could still walk through. Kaya, she said. Thank God. We have been so worried. You look thin. Are they feeding you? She stopped when she reached the edge of the space between us. She was good at distance. She could measure it down to the inch that earns pity. You should not be here, Asher said. She ignored him. She offered me a smile designed to look like a surrender. You win, she said softly. Come home. We will make it right. I will apologize to you in any words you want. I am not proud of who I have been. I was desperate. I was alone. My father died saving your parents. Your father was not Eerie, I said. And he did not die for anyone. He died because he chose a road that ends that way for men like him. Her eyes filled with tears so quickly it would have been impressive if I had not known how she did it. She dropped her gaze, then lifted it back to Asher like a child asking to be believed even when the cookie is still in her hand. The tablet screen went dark and reflected the 4 of us like a false lake. She saw herself there. She straightened her mouth into a shape that did not involve crying. You always wanted a daughter, she said to Asher. You told me that. I am giving you one. He flinched. You are giving me a child. Not a truth, he said. She went still, the way prey goes still when it has run out of trees. The testers are not admissible, Jace said, his voice grabbing at process the way drowning men grab at reeds. The court of our houses, Noah said. His voice was quiet, but it cut. It always had. James never moved. He stood like a post in the sun and watched their hands. Sylvie switched tactics without letting the breath catch in her throat. She turned to me and placed her palm lightly over her belly. Do you hate a child? She asked. Will you carry your anger into a nursery? I do not hate a child, I said. I hate what you did to make sure one would stand between us like a shield while you walked clean. There is no proof that I touched that plane, she said. That could be anyone in a cap. There is proof that your mouth asked for my exile, I said. There is proof that your name used a system that night. There is proof that your hands held a key to a door you could not have opened alone. There is proof I found you in my father's study and you lied to me like you were practicing a language you were born speaking. She took a step back and looked at Asher again as if to say, we are the reasonable ones. We can fix this if you keep your eyes on me and not the screen. If we go, it can still be ours. Asher did not move. When he spoke, his voice sounded like the inside of a locked room. Did you touch that plane? He asked. She did not answer. She counted the seconds and weighed them against her tears. Then she turned to the side as if someone there could tell her who to be. No one was. The wind reached around her and tugged at the hem of her dress. If you ask me for a confession in this place, she said, very soft, you do not love me. I am not asking for a confession, he said. I am asking for a door out of the lie. The lie moved. It dropped the corner of its pretty mouth. It showed its teeth. You think you can throw me away, she said, and now the voice was a snarl she usually saved for shut bathrooms and dark rooms. You think you can make me a villain to feel better about losing control. You cannot. You made a promise when you asked me to stay. You made a promise when you touched me and called it fate. You made a promise when you told me your house was mine. You do not get to take that back because someone found an old video of a girl in a cap. You were never a girl in a cap, I said. You were a knife in a sweater. She turned fast, a flicker of movement aimed at the tablet on the hood. James stepped forward at the same time I did. He was closer. He set his palm over the device and did not look at her hand when it hit his. Do not, he said, and it was not a threat. It was a boundary. Her chest rose and fell like a bird beating itself against a window. Then she smiled, small and mean. You think this will matter in a week, she said. You think men like us do not know how to bury stories. No one here is a man like you, James said. She laughed once, a bright sound that did not belong to the place we were standing. She backed away, palms up like a stage direction that says I am harmless while I reach for the thing you cannot see. 3 cars crested the road. White. Black. White. They were quiet cars until they were not. They rolled up with the patient certainty of people who knew exactly how far the law could stretch when men like Mr. Orman asked it to. They parked in a line that closed the only easy exit. 2 plainclothes officers stepped out and put their badges up where the sun could bless them. One of them spoke my name the way you speak a file you have read into the ground. We would like to ask you some questions, Miss Rener. We would like you to come with us. I did not answer them. I looked at Asher. No, he said. You will not take her. You want the story, take the one who wrote it. He pointed at Sylvie. His hand did not shake. I do not know if it was because he was brave or because he was empty. The officers kept their faces where the sun could see them. We have a warrant for the seizure of devices connected to the aircraft incident, the first one said. We also have an order to secure the safety of Miss Rener if she consents to give a statement under counsel. If she does not consent, we will treat her as a potential witness and a person of interest. That means protective custody. Protective custody tastes like jail with a pillow, James said under his breath. I looked at the tablet. I looked at the dead heat. I looked at my brothers and the pattern of us hammered thin by a girl who had learned how to play a family like a stringed instrument until it sang her favorite song. I consent to give a statement, I said. I consent to share the materials that support it. But I am not stepping into any car that does not have my counsel in it, and my counsel is not here. The officer nodded like a man who has learned to find relief in a neat line on a complicated page. We can wait, he said. Sylvie took one breath, and then did the thing I had been waiting for. She ran. Not far. Not fast. Enough to make noise. Enough to provoke muscle memory in men trained to chase. Jay surged forward. Asher grabbed his arm and held him so hard the old hurt woke in both of them. Noah did not move. He watched her run as if watching a lifetime of near misses finally trip. James did not chase. He did not have to. A woman from the white car stepped into Sylvie's path and let her run into the hard outline of a badge. The second officer closed the curve. The click of cuffs sounded small on a runway that had once held the roar of metal birds. Sylvie turned her head to find me. She made her mouth into the shape of pity again. You will regret this, she said. One day you will need a sister and I will not be there. I already regret every day I believed you were one, I said. They put her in the back of the car. She did not cry now. The performance had ended and the stagehands had taken the props away. She sat with her spine straight and her hand flat on the seat as if she were proving she could do this without breaking. She could. She was built for survival. She had only misjudged the way truth sometimes survives too. Asher closed his eyes. When he opened them, he looked older by a decade and younger by a year, as if some part of him had returned from a long job and another had just left for one. I should have listened to you, he said. You should have looked, I said. He nodded. He did not ask for my forgiveness. He did not ask for a place in a future I had not built yet. He looked at the car where his mistake sat with a child inside her like a fuse timed for a different life. He looked at me and the old house came into the light between us like a patient that has finally been given the right name. What do you want? He asked. It was the only question that mattered. I want you to tell the truth, I said. To me. To the press. To yourself. I want you to step down from anything that would let you turn this into a narrative where you are the hero who was duped by a villain and not a man who preferred a comforting lie to a difficult sister. I want a public fund in our parents' names for independent crash investigation because I am not the last girl who will stand on a runway and wonder how grief learned to sound like a press release. I want the Rener lab walls cleaned of anyone who let her walk through my father's office unchallenged without a question in their throat. I want Noah to handle the transition because he will read the instructions until he understands them. I want Jason a room with a door and a person who will make him sit still long enough to let the anger burn without burning the house. I want the child born into honesty, not leverage. I want his mother to answer for what she did without you using a drop of your name to soften it. You want too much, Jace said. I want exactly enough, I said. Noah stepped forward. You will have it, he said. His voice did not crack. It rang. Asher said nothing for a long time. Then he reached into his pocket and took out a small key. He held it out without moving closer. This is the balcony lock, he said. I changed it after you left and then I pretended not to know why. Take it. Change it again. Or throw it into the desert. I will not stand on that stone and lie to a house I already saved once and nearly killed twice. I did not take the key. I looked at it until my eyes watered and the shape of it blurred into something that could have been a tear or could have been a piece of metal. Keep it, I said. You are the one who needs to remember what doors you opened and what you will never open again. He closed his fingers over it like a man closing his fist over a brand. When the officers asked if I was ready to make my statement, I said yes. James stood beside me while I spoke into a recorder that would travel with the footage and the logs and the soft line that appeared on a test strip when truth finally bound to the right surface. I did not perform. I did not narrate. I gave them a list. I gave them names. I gave them times. I gave them the small stubborn facts that make up the architecture of guilt. When it was done, the officer closed his notebook and looked at the sun as if grateful to be done standing under it. He told me they would be in touch. He told me I could go. Asher tried to speak, then stopped. He put his palm on the hood of the SUV where the tablet had sat and pressed until his skin blanched. When he took it away, a faint print remained for a moment on the hot metal and then it was gone. We left without saying goodbye. Some doors close on words that never get said. Some doors close on silence because it is the only honest thing left. Back at the compound, the air smelled like water and stone. The plant in my lab still looked sturdy. The notebook still lay in the drawer like clean snow. Mr. Orman poured tea and congratulated no one. He asked for a list of next steps. He took 3 names and sent them to 3 people who would not waste them. He promised nothing and delivered the only thing that matters in the end, pressure in the right places, applied at the right time, until truth stops being a secret and starts being a fact. At dusk, James and I walked to the roof. The desert did its trick with light, turning the world gold for 3 minutes, and then letting it fall into blue. Wind moved across the gravel in a steady hand. When we were kids, I said, I told Asher I wanted to see shooting stars. He broke curfew and took me to the park and we counted until we ran out of numbers and started again. It felt like forever could fit inside a night. James leaned on the low wall. You can have another forever, he said. It will not look like the last one. But it can still hold you. I let the words reach me and then I let them keep going. I do not know what I am in this story if I am not the sister who was shoved out of her own house, I said. You are the woman who walked back with proof, he said. You are the scientist who turns pain into method. You are the person who did not confuse forgiveness with forgetting. You are a path that other people will look at and understand how to walk without asking permission. He did not touch my hand. He did not need to. We stood there and let the dark come. A single plane slid across the sky at high altitude, a silent line of silver. It was not a shooting star. It was a machine the size of a promise moving toward a place it belonged. The next morning I woke before the alarm and put on my shoes. The gym lights were already on. James was already there. He did not ask if I wanted to hit something. He handed me the wraps and watched my hands learn a new morning without shaking. I went to the lab and set up a small run of the tagging compound. I added a drop of something new to the matrix, a stabilizer that might hold better under heat. I wrote a note in the first of the new notebooks. Not about my brothers. Not about the girl in the cap. About binding. About the way some things hold fast if you give them the right surface. A message arrived just after noon. It was from Noah. No flourish. No apology. A single line. We told the truth. I closed my eyes and let the relief come the way rain comes in a dry place, sudden and loud and holy. I did not answer. He did not need my words to do what the house needed him to do. He needed my example. He already had it. Later, James and I drove an hour into the desert to a place where the land fell away in a soft bowl full of sky. We sat on the hood and counted the slow early lights. Not stars. Planes. Satellites. A drifting space station that made a thin path like the seam of a closed wound. He asked me if I would keep the name they had given me. Maya Cole. It tasted different now that the main fight was done. It tasted less like a wound, more like a tool. I will use it until I do not need it, I said. I will be Kaya Rener again when the name means who I am and not what they did to me. He nodded like a man cataloging data he would not misuse. He looked at me with those steady eyes that made panic look small. He did not call me brave. He did not call me strong. He did not call me anything at all. I slid off the hood and stood with my feet in the dust and my face in the wind. The desert stretched in every direction, open and hard and honest. I breathed until the breath went all the way down and came all the way back up. Once, a long time ago, I asked for shooting stars. The boy who would become a man made sure I saw them and believed in forever. Today, I asked for proof. The woman I became brought it home. There would be hearings. There would be statements. There would be lawyers who tried to say the word accident until it lost its meaning. There would be a baby who would not know what storm had made him and would not need to. There would be a house that learned to tell the truth out loud and a family that learned to hold silence the right way again, not as a weapon but as a promise. There would be mornings like this, and nights when the wind lifted and the plant in my lab leaned toward it as if plants could pray. There would be work. The kind that used my hands and saved me from the need to perform. The kind that made small things bind exactly where they should. James picked up the wraps and tossed them into the car. He glanced at the horizon and then at me. Ready, he said. I nodded. I did not need a new name to answer the question that mattered. Always, I said.